Fox News continues to use violent crime statistics in order to try to scare white affluent Americans. In a Super Tuesday segment on crime, Fox reporter Katie Pavlich claimed that crime is up, despite the fact that multiple reports, including FBI statistics, showing over the past 2 years, crime has went down. For example, CNN reported back in January that homicides dropped by over 10% in America's biggest cities in 2023. Violent crime is dropping fast in the U.S., even if Americans don't believe it, reported NPR last month. America's Peace Wave, this is a late December 2023 headline at The Atlantic, which reported sky-high violent crime rates of recent years have suddenly, mercifully plummeted. NBC News reported in December of 2023, crime in almost every category went down across the U.S. in 2023, FBI reports. Days earlier, NBC reported, most people think the U.S. crime rate is rising. They're wrong. Crime on the decline, the New York Times reported an article originally titled, U.S. crime rate fell in 2023. According to the Times report, the data over the past years offered a much more optimistic picture. The number of murders of U.S. cities fell by more than 12%, which would be the biggest national decline on record. The spike that started in 2020 now looks like a blip. The murder rate is lower than it was during the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. The recent data also suggests that the violent crime rate in 2023 was near its lowest level in more than 50 years, as Jeff Asher, a crime analyst, wrote for his newsletter. So now, why would then people believe that crime is up and out of control? Well, because of this.
In terms of what has been happening over the past 3 years, crime is up. People are feeling it. And let's not forget that 40% of some of those violent places in the country also don't report their statistics to the FBI. So you're not getting the full story of what's actually happening.
It's a really important point. In my deep brain room dive on Super Tuesday this morning, that was absolutely noted, is that that information has to be voluntarily provided to the FBI. So when you're digging in at the state level, you have to remember that.
You see, crime is up because the people are feeling it. Feelings over facts, everybody. Yes, people feel a lot of things that turn out not to be the case. Okay. Yet, faced with the data that we have showing that crime is down, they decided to go with, you see, the data is fake. And there's not enough of it. Pavlich claims that one of the reasons for the FBI reporting lower crime is because of soft-on-crime prosecutors that are either reducing charges, letting people out with no charges, or declining to prosecute more serious crimes. Oh, you see the crime is happening, but they're letting them go. That's it. In fact, crime is worse than ever, and you got these prosecutors that are just letting everybody go. No, that's not the case. In fact, the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting program is not a report on charges and prosecutions. It's just a report of crimes that have been reported. That's it. So that would reflect what she's saying at all. The FBI is reporting lower crime because they're getting less crime reports. I know, right? Now, there is a reason that could go in their favor a little bit, but Pavlich suggests that the statistics are intentionally wrong. But that's actually not the case. What's going on here is, yes, there is a reduction in crime. There's also been a reduction in the reports of crime. So there are reporting gaps. And there's always been reporting gaps, by the way, which do allow for bad actors to claim that the crime rate is out of control. But actually, we don't actually know. In 2021, the FBI had revamped their reporting system. Now, that has caused a little bit more gaps in reporting. To be fair, about 71% of law enforcement agencies nationwide submitted data through the FBI's new system called the NIBRS. However, they also allowed for the previous reporting system to accept these crime reports in 2023. So now, according to the incomplete numbers, which again, every year is incomplete, okay, violent crime in the U.S. dropped last year, returning to pre-pandemic levels. So knowing that these numbers have never been 100% of all reported crimes, they've actually hovered somewhere around upper 70s, 80%, okay? And so according to that, when you compare it with that, crime is down, okay? So now, According to the incomplete numbers, as I said, violent crime in the U.S. actually dropped last year, returning to pre-pandemic levels, while property crimes did see a significant increase. And that's just a reality, right? So now, as I mentioned, 71% lower than usual, which is usually around 80%. Okay? Now, that said, you'd be like, aha, you see? It's the big cities. The big cities aren't reporting their crime. And that's why the crime rate is down, because all the crime's happening in Chicago, in New York City, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Los Angeles. It's all those liberal places, you know. Actually, no. The places that don't report, that actually have some of the lowest crime reporting rates, are in red states. Florida, West Virginia, Louisiana, Mississippi, Wyoming. I mean, Florida has some of the lowest reporting out of all of those states. That's MAGA land. That's, you know, Ron DeSantis world. Yeah, Mar-a-Lago's there. Imagine all the crime being, you know, not getting reported in that place. Okay, there's crime in everywhere. But somehow it just happens to be the liberal cities. I know, right? So that's how bad actors will take and manipulate this stuff and to make you feel like, crime is everywhere. Oh, it's in your neighborhood. It's coming after you. The black people are coming to your door. The brown people. And that's also a part of it, right? So obviously the big trope is like, black people, all criminals and thugs and dangerous. And now their new thing is immigrant crime. Look at all the immigrants coming in and just criming all over the place. They're criming everywhere. But then that's of course not the reality. Immigrants actually commit less crime than, especially undocumented immigrants, by the way. They commit less crimes because they don't want to get caught and deported. Doesn't mean they never commit crimes. It just means less crime. Okay. So that said, I mentioned the red states, but there are blue states, of course. It's generally a mixture that have lower reporting. Illinois, Hawaii, they have low reporting rates too, especially over the last couple of years. But again, the issue here, the main issue going on with this is that because there are incomplete numbers, politicians and pundits will play on voters' concerns about crime. I mean, who likes crime? Nobody. Of course not. So what usually happens, though, is the news will say, look at all the crime. You know why? Because if it bleeds, it leads. That generally gets people paying attention to the news when you see crime. Oh, today's crime segment. They love it. And people love to watch it. And then, of course, politicians will see that and they'll say, well, like me, I will do something about the crime. I will be tough on crime. Which generally ends up being tough on minorities. So knowing that, though, the claims from Fox are purposely misleading, right? Instead of saying, well, we're not really sure. They're saying, no, crime's definitely up because of feelings. In fact, Jared Holt, senior researcher at the Institute for Strategic Dialogue, he said the Fox News segment was, quote, vibes-based analysis. Feelings over facts, everybody. Teddy Wilson, who also reports in the right wing via Substack, writes, this rhetoric was part of a much larger narrative perpetuated by right-wing media and GOP politicians, and it's connected to anti-immigrant rhetoric. Now, I want to get back to the if it bleeds, it leads, right? So a lot of people watch local news, okay? Local news does a lot of crime reports. Well, a lot of local news has also been taken over by entities like Sinclair Broadcasting, which is, again, right-wing. They've bought up a lot of local news stations and have an agenda to turn people right-wing. And, of course, what makes people more prone to vote for right-wing conservative politicians is to scare the crap out of them, all right? And how do you scare the crap out of people? You show them and you bombard them with endless reports on crime. Crime. Crime's coming for you. It's coming to your house. It's already in your house. It's behind you with a knife. That's it. That's what they do. And so, of course, it scares the crap out of people. And that is a gateway to right-wing conservative policies, which, again, tend to punish innocent minorities. And that's one of the huge problems with it. Now, the message, by the way, getting back to what Teddy Wilson said, white people in the suburbs should be afraid because the scary black and brown people are coming to your neighborhood. Yeah. Now, Media Matters also last week reported this, Fox News' attempt to manufacture a Biden crime wave crisis runs into a problem. Violent crime's actually down. Yes. And journalist John Harwood, formerly of the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, NBC News, and CNN, wrote, so when they're going up, crime stats are real. When they're going down, the stats are fake. Instead, they'll just use random videos of crimes by members of minority groups. Disgraceful garbage enterprise. And that's what it is. Feelings over facts, anecdotes over data, fear over logic.